Welcome back to another episode of Corralling the Chaos. Today, we are going to talk about AI and events. We hear about AI in all facets of our lives. So why not talk about it in events? Because I think there's a lot of things to leverage when it comes to AI and all the groundwork that goes into planning them and producing them and creating those experiences. And so today, I've asked my good friend, Huong Nguyen, the CEO and founder of Shiloh Events, to join us and to help us unpack that. So welcome, Hong.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Well, first, before we jump into some of these questions, tell our audience a little bit about Shiloh Events and kind of why AI is such an important facet of your life now and what all Shiloh Events is doing about that.
Absolutely. That's such a great question because it really does segue into who we are and why we're using AI. Because when I started Shiloh as an event management agency, I chose the name Shiloh because it means peace in Hebrew, or like a place of peace. And so the goal is when people are working with us, instead of stress and chaos and uncertainty, they exchange that with us for peace. So when they work with us, they'll get peace in knowing that everything is taken care of. All the logistics are on par, and the details, nothing's being fallen, no balls are being dropped. So the goal is they have stress, they come to us, we have peace, and we give it to them. And the question is, how do we do that, right? How do we exchange peace? It's such a conceptual thing. And so what's really ingrained in our work is the processes that we take to execute these programs, to plan them, to communicate them with all of the parties involved, to go from point A to point B at a much more efficient manner. And the coordination and the project management, all of that is really intricate in the way that we do it. So we leverage a lot of technologies that are out there right now. So obviously the project management technology, right? Or even a ton of event tech, like Lasso, for an example. That's a great tech that can be leveraged to work more efficiently and be more consistent and just coordinated. So AI comes along and it helps us to even, be much more, detailed in a way where or just an extra pair of hand that we that's virtual, that we didn't think we need, but now are reliant all the time. So at Shiloh, we have 5 different event management phases. And I actually launched it when I started when I started Shiloh Events, because I wanted our team to understand how events is such a cyclical thing, and throughout all of it, there's so many different phases that we need to be aware of, right? So the first phase is explore, and then after that it's envision and establish, and then we execute, and then at the end we evaluate. In 5 of each of those phases, we leverage AI in so many different ways. So there's note taking, so we leverage AI in all of the different phases, right? There's benchmarking, and there's ideation, there's content creation, there's researching. And so throughout each of those phases, we have identified ways that we've leveraged AI to bring peace to our clients.
So when you talk about AI and note taking, what does that look like?
Funny, well, maybe not funny, but in the agency side, we have to take notes in every single meeting.
Yeah.
I'm sure you guys do that too in your internal meetings, right? Somebody has to take notes. Somebody has to send out a meeting recap, or maybe they don't have to. But for us, we send out meeting recaps after every single client meeting. Why? Because decisions are being made, discussions are being had, and people forget, right? People forget what was said. People forget, oh, I didn't know I chose that stage, or I didn't know that the food and beverage was that much money, or I didn't, And so what we do is, as a CYA even, is to send out meeting recaps to make sure that, hey, this is what we talked about. This is the direction that we're heading towards. And these meeting recaps are done by event coordinators. So they attend all of the meetings. So imagine an event coordinator attending literally 10 to 20 meetings that week, and then taking notes by hand. And then after that, they read through the notes and they do a meeting recap. But in order to do that, it takes cognitive ability to understand and comprehend the content as well as the context, right? So let's say we're talking about an advisory dinner that night. Well, what's the context of that dinner? They can't just come. They can take notes word for word, but they don't really comprehend, right? So they have to both, type it out, comprehend it, and concisely put it in different categories like discussions, key points that are being talked about, decisions being made, and like, next steps, right? Those are like our categories of meeting notes. So it takes them like an hour to 2 hours post meeting to do a meeting recap. And then we have to circulate it among our team for approval to make sure that the context is right. So now with AI, we'll have Firefly join our meeting as like a shadow attendance, right? And then they take they take the notes word for word, they transcribe it so that all of the coordinator has to do is just listen. They don't have to multitask to type and listen because that's hard. So they just have to listen and tune in and attune to the context. And then afterwards, they read the notes, the transcription from AI, and they do the recap. Or actually, the recap's already done by Zoom AI at this point as well.
Okay.
They just basically shift things around, and it cuts their time from like an hour and a half to 2 hours to just literally like 30 minutes to 45 minutes.
I can only imagine the efficiency. And even like I think about the accuracy too, like even sometimes, it's always good. I try to always have somebody else on calls with me, right? Because we have two different sets of ears. I might completely miss something completely. Even though I'm listening, I'm completely missing something that somebody else heard or heard it differently. And so I think even the accuracy of that, it kind of validates what you've heard. So I think you use Firefly for that.
Yes. Yeah. And there's a ton out there when I was pulling it up for you. You can also use Otter or Sybil. And and then there's like even Zoom, for an example. If you have Zoom, there's like Zoom summary now, but that one's not as accurate. It's just, you just have to, I mean, humans cannot be fully removed, right? Like we can't take a Zoom summary and then send it out. No way. Like you have to really review it and adjust it and make it accurate to your point. And that's why you have both a human attending. So I didn't eliminate the event coordinator from coming. I was like, you still have it now. Yeah. You just need to listen now.
You're just able to do far more in the day without burning out. Yeah.
But that still proves the point that we still need humans, right? She didn't lose her job. She just now is being taught to leverage AI to do her job better.
Well, I know that every time you and I have gotten together over the last year or so, AI always comes up. But what specifically sparked your interest in exploring kind of how AI really intersects with live events?
I was just thinking about just the overall, I guess, time hack of AI. If you really think about it, like back then we had MapQuest and we would type in directions and then we would have to print out the paper direction. I don't know if you remember that, right?
Yes, I do.
You look at the paper and then you're driving with paper directions. And then comes Google Map and then comes GPS, and it's now on our phone and on our dashboard in the CarPlay. So you don't really have to print anything out and it tells us where to go. You don't really have to think. You just look at the map and you turn right, you turn left, or it will vocalize the directions to you. So if you translate that to, the application of AI in events, it's now so much more efficient and so much more, in some ways easier if we leverage AI in the event planning, because event planning by nature, it's a very tactical job. It's a very manual job. I don't think you ever eliminate the manual aspect of events ever. There's just something you just can't. But what you can do is leverage AI to be that much more efficient. Like here's an example, like even post-event report, right? So typically we extract the registration report and we structure the data, and then we do pivot tables, we do bar charts, we do pie charts, and we manually analyze these data points and then put it in a presentation slide to present to our exec. Now, I just use Excel GPT within ChatGPT for that $20 a month additional. And I plug in the data, obviously removing the private information, and I say, give me a pie chart of where all the attendees are coming from and tell me the top 10 cities. And then for next year, what are 3 city recommendations that you have for me? And it literally spits out the actual chart. And then I can also extract the data in Excel format from Excel GPT. So then all I do is copy and paste the graph into the presentation slides. I copy and paste the text, but then I obviously adjust the wording to make sure that it's my tone and like the analysis is accurate and congruent with actually the context of what I'm doing. So you still have to do that. And then it speeds things up so much quicker, right? Like, so I would spend an hour, let's say 2 hours extracting the data and structuring it. Now I plug the unstructured data into Excel GPT, and it spits out a graph that I can just grab. Like, it's that much easier, and I don't have to like spin my wheels, right? So it's essentially leveraging a virtual assistant at that lesser of a rate. And then the interesting thing is, like, the cost of events keep on going up. I mean, God, I don't know why. Like, it just keeps on going up. And so for independent plan, I'm not an independent planner, but I was just thinking, like, if an independent planner wants to be able to compete with, larger agencies,
Yeah.
and they don't have the funding for additional support, leveraging AI is like the best option. So then I was, to answer your question, like, the overall aspects of event, there's just so many ways that we can leverage it to just be that much smarter.
How do you use it to leverage like the attendee experience or their behaviors or the things that the end client is really looking to kind of gauge? How do you leverage it for those types of things?
That's such a great question. I was just hosting a private dinner for event professionals the other month, and we partnered with a technology called Zenus, Venus, but it's Zenus, I guess, Zenus. And so they have a technology for behavioral mapping. And so, like, they basically set up cameras, and they did this at South by Southwest. And it analyzes people's faces, and it has facial recognition. And so, I guess, just take a step back, Angela, to answer your question. The end clients, we do events because we want to drive business, right? Events is part of a sales and marketing effort. The goal is to convert attendees into customers. And so the way to do that is if we really understand what the customers need, why they are going to the event, what is the purpose of the event, are they even enjoying it, what are some areas that we can, heighten the experience in so that we can tap into those emotions to convert. So this technology analyzes that behavior, understands how long they've been at a booth. Sure, you can do that with RFID. Sure, you can do that with badge scan. But with this kind of technology, it actually analyzes, are they really taking in that information?
Right? Are they engaged?
Engaged, exactly. And so they do that at sessions. They have that throughout the expo floor. They have that throughout the, when people are transitioning from one session to another. And at the end of the day, it gives you an idea of it's basically behavioral mapping. And they already do this at airports. They already do this at shopping malls. And so they're implementing technology into events. There's other technology too, like AI networking on just even a practical level, right? Like being able to give the attendees a much better networking experience by recommending other attendees that they would be able to better leverage than to just randomly walk up to somebody. Like if you go to a 10,000 people conference, like you and I have done that, Angela, there's so many people. Who do we meet? Right. And then that's the person that we meet after 5 minutes of talking to them. It's not the one that we want to talk to. And then you're stuck. You're stuck in the conversation. So it's kind of like a blind draw, right? You walk around, you have to blindly talk to people, and you don't know what their background is, and you don't know who they really are. So let's say we have an AI networking and mobile app, and Grip.ai does this, where you upload the attendee data and everybody fills out a profile, and the system automatically matches you with 20 other people that are going to be in the same room as you, that are going to be in the same vicinity, and recommends that you meet each other because based on your similar interests or networking goals or career goals, right? So that cuts down much easier. And it's so like that cuts down the time, and then it's more targeted. And I guess the word that I'm saying, like that I'm trying to get to, is intentional. It has to be more intentional with your time, right? So that you can yield a much better ROI from the host side and also from the attendee side, from experiential.
Are you seeing your clients asking for some of the AI capabilities to kind of give them some of that richer data? Or are they becoming more educated about what their options are as well?
Yeah, I mean, I have half and half. I think the events, there still needs to be some more adoption on the AI side. But yes, I do have clients, like for an example, we did a virtual event for PayPal and we leveraged AI networking, and that's virtual, right? So they can go into rooms that has different interests based on what they filled out, and then the system recommends it to them. We also did it for an SKO. And so it's just, we have clients that are feeling like they need to get caught up. And then other clients that just don't know. And honestly, Angela, budget is everything. When your budgets are being cut, you have to prioritize, unfortunately. And then
Yeah.
sadly, you have the marketing side who really understand the value of experience. But I'm finding that the sales side, so all the sales events, they don't really see that. They see more
Interesting.
demos, right? How many demos
Yeah.
can, how many products can, all that stuff. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. They're looking for that quicker,
Yeah,
faster return. Yes.
exactly.
More tangible. Yeah. That makes sense. Well, what are some of the challenges you see that AI brings in our industry?
You had mentioned the accuracy. I guess it's both being more accurate, right? But then at the same time, it's not as accurate. So, the challenges that I warn my employees and just colleagues is that you have to double check consistently. Like, for an example, the work that you give to event coordinators, you're not just going to take their work and then like present it, right? There's some review sessions that you're going to have with that coordinator. And then that coordinator would then have to make changes. And they would need like a day or two to adjust their work. Same thing with AI. Like you have to go back and review the information. So, and then like it's just the human tone is not there too, Angela. Like,
Yeah. That's a good
sometimes when I
point.
read, yeah, the things that are come out, it's like, that's not me,
Yes.
So there's a little bit of adjustment. It's not perfect. There still needs to be a little bit of like the application of you within that.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
knowing where to apply it and how much of it to apply in the right context. It can't be, it's a shortcut. It can't be cheating, right? Yeah. You can't
Yeah,
abuse the
like
short.
plagiarism, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the other thing too that I'm finding is just like in terms of the data privacy, there's just, I'm constantly always aware of the information that I plug in. But and then even people say, well, you can create your own AI now. Like you can just create your own GPT, but that's still like open source. When I'm using it on a practical level, there's still a lot of learning curve. There's still time that it takes for me to play with it.
Yeah.
So if you're using it for the first time, I would expect it's like learning a new bicycle, right? It's not, and don't give up. Like a lot of people, well, it didn't really do what I needed it to do. So I'm just going to go revert back to the old ways. Like, have you ever delegated a task to somebody and they didn't do it the right way? And you're like, well, I just might as well do it myself. It's quicker.
Never. No. No.
If I just did it
Yes,
myself.
of course.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
So then you end up retracting the delegation, right? And you end up doing
Yeah.
it yourself. So my caution is take the time that it takes to train this AI tool, to learn it and to play around with it. And yeah, it's going to take you that extra time to train them and to teach them
Yeah.
everything but in the long run, it's so much more efficient. So that's for me would be the challenge.
It is exciting to think about all the potential of AI. I know it kind of seems like the camps are split, right? There are people that are super excited and totally embracing it. And then others that are like, if I just ignore it, it will go away. I don't have to learn it yet. But what do you think are some of the exciting opportunities still ahead for our industry when it comes to innovation?
A ton of data analytics. Like I wish there would be more of that. It's really just scratching the surface right now, Angela. Like when I'm talking data analytics, here's what I'm envisioning. Like, Lasso has a very comprehensive tool, right? That does almost everything. What maybe you guys are thinking about this already, maybe not, but it would be so great if I can just plug in a hotel bill and the tool would already know what a hotel bill looks like because it's been fed that data and it would have been trained to read it. So then instead of me spending hours, days, going line by line on the rooming list, on the food and beverage, and like reconciling those numbers to make sure it's correct. What I would love is if I can plug that in, like it's usually 150 pages of invoices. And, and the tool would be like, here's how much, and quantify, here's how many room nights you had. Here's all, the total cost and broken, because the hotel bill doesn't break out that number the way that we need it to. So we have to go line by line and do it ourselves and do it our own sheet. And then sometimes our own sheet that we've tracked on the side doesn't match the hotel bill. So then we have to, find like a needle in a haystack. Right? Going line by line.
Match,
We find out why it doesn't match. So it would be great if we can leverage the analytics capabilities of AI to help us find that needle in haystack at a much faster pace. Same.
I have a feeling things are gonna, I mean, they've already progressed at lightning speed. So, it just gets better and better and better. So I'm sure before long, you're going to have that capability. Or to your point, you would have taught it how to give you the answers that you're looking for. Because I think you're right. I think a lot of it is what you're feeding it and how the specificity of what you're asking it to do. So,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. There's so much. There's just so much. I feel like we're just scratching the surface of what AI can do. And, I've always just admired our industry and people like you and your team at Shiloh who put together these incredible experiences that blow your mind. And before, I joined this industry over a decade ago, I honestly could never appreciate all the little intricacies and all the level of details and the thought that goes into it. And more importantly, all the possibilities and opportunities for things to go wrong. And so I love the fact that you named your company Shiloh, meaning peace, because there's so many different things that could go wrong. And knowing that you and your team have it, I think is so important. And then the ability to leverage AI to just give your team peace, right? I think you're so focused on giving your clients peace. I would imagine having those AI tools probably brings quite a bit of peace to your team as well, since they're kind of on the front lines executing.
That's so true. I'm so glad you said that because burnout is obviously something that's on top of mind right now, right? For a lot of people. And we're actually producing 5 events back to back right now. And having that extra tool, that extra help that we can lean on, reduces that stress even more. So it's important. Peace all around.
Yes, agreed. Peace all around. Well, you're great, especially knowing your team is in the middle of producing 5 events as we speak. You are great to carve out 25 minutes with us to unpack this. So thank you for that. So I know you're pretty active on social. Tell everybody where they can find you, because I think you've got great content, not just about AI, but about all sorts of things events. So tell our audience where they can find you.
Absolutely. So on LinkedIn, my key goal in publishing content is truly to educate. It's truly to elevate people, planners, event professionals, event marketers, field marketers, from the tactical to the strategic, and giving them insights that I found, in the past 10 years of doing event management and also on the road. And I cover topics from experiential marketing to event AV and, the hotel sourcing, food and beverage, event technology, registration, all kinds of stuff, speaker management, sponsorship management, content development, because that's what we do here at Shiloh. So it's just basically, enabling others to learn from our experiences. So follow me on LinkedIn.
And she's also a speaking queen, speaking all over the country as well. So thank you for joining us, Huong. I really appreciate it. And to our audience out there, if you like what you hear, be sure to hit subscribe. And if you have any questions, comments, or feedback, reach out to us at podcast@lasso.io. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for joining, Huong.